My family and I embarked on our World Journey tour 2 years ago, and guess what was one of the biggest realizations we had throughout our travels? Was it that Paris lived up to the hype of being the most beautiful city in the world? Or was it that Florence, the city that produced Leonardo da Vinci, made you seriously question what you've been doing with your life? Or was it that once you tasted sushi in Osaka, Japan, there is simply no going back? Now, all those were things we did see, experience, and come to truly appreciate. Paris is truly breathtaking. Leonardo da Vinci was the ultimate Renaissance man, and you'll feel like you haven't tasted real sushi until you had them in Japan. But the biggest realization we actually had did not directly come from any one of the places we visited. No, it actually came from our limited size suitcases. The fact of being a minimalist, because we accidentally became one through these travels, has so many more benefits than I ever realized. So with that, let me share with you 5 lessons that my wife and I learned by becoming an accidental minimalist. The first lesson that we learned while becoming an accidental minimalist: constraint forces decisions. Now, I'll be honest, being a minimalist was the last thing on our minds when my wife and I decided to embark on our world travel with the family. We just wanted to fulfill our dream of seeing the world with the kids before they got older and didn't want to hang out with old geezers like us anymore. Or, as my son would affectionately say, "You are an unk, Dad." Anyways, the dream is one thing, but if you want to make that dream a reality, it requires execution. And what is one of the first things that comes with executing a multi-year trip across multiple countries and multiple continents? Optimizing your packing. And I admit, we were naively ambitious with this part of the plan, because we not only wanted to see France while we were in Europe, we also wanted to see the UK, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, and even Belgium while we're at it. I mean, who knew when we could ever do this again? But in order to do this, we also realized we needed to narrow our packing to 3 medium-sized suitcases plus a carry-on for my camera gear. That was the maximum load that would fit inside the car that we were going to rent. Thus, we went on a prioritization spree, looking at every piece of item we want to take with us and questioning it painfully. It'd be nice to take this extra thick jacket for Switzerland, but it is so big. How about this small carrier bag? It could come useful when we're doing our short outings in Korea, but is it out of fashion? I heard sunblock was super expensive in Bali. Should we take extra? And one by one, given the limited sizes of our suitcases, essentially forced constraint, we started making trade-offs to identify our most necessary essential items. And I'll be honest, we had thoughts about these trade-offs before. I'm sure we all had at one point, looking at our overflowing closet or drawer. But because there's no forced constraint, what happens? We kick the can down the road telling ourselves, one day, I'll trim my closet down to the essentials and donate everything else. Well, what we realized through this experience was the true power of constraint. We had considered ourselves relatively organized people and somewhat of a minimalist up to that point. But it wasn't until we were faced with true constraint, we realized we were far from it. Seeing our full closet and our tiny suitcases, we were humbled, genuinely humbled. But the plane tickets were already bought, hotel rooms already booked, and the plan in motion. So as painful as it was, we forced ourselves to make the hard trade-offs. Throughout it all, lamenting how much we're going to miss the items we couldn't take with us. But do you know what was funny once we got on the road? Once we started visiting new places and experiencing new things, we barely remember the items we left behind. Yes, constraints at times feel like the enemy. Thus, we always offer more options, more space, more resources. We don't have to make hard decisions. We can have them all. But what my wife and I learned through our painful packing process was this: constraints at times can be a gift because they help us cut through the noise, the clutter, and reveal what is most important, what really matters. But this, of course, is easier said than done, as we personally experienced as soon as we got on the road, which leads to the next lesson. The second lesson we learned while becoming an accidental minimalist: accumulation is the default. Did my wife and I pat ourselves on the back as we got on the plane to London that first night? Of course we did. We felt so proud we were able to fit everything in our 3 suitcases. We made the hard trade-offs. No issues with things from now on, right? Of course we were kidding ourselves. I don't know if this is human nature or not, because I haven't seen any studies around it, but I feel like it is. We can't help ourselves, but naturally accumulate things, especially when we find ourselves in a single location for an extended period of time. For example, I remember everything fitting perfectly into our 3 suitcases when we first arrived in Italy. We had rented a beautiful Airbnb overlooking Florence for a few weeks, and we wanted to enjoy every minute of it. And we did. We got to taste the famous jumbo panino, see the Duomo, and just soak in the birthplace of Leonardo da Vinci and the home of Renaissance. Amazing time. That is until it came to packing up again. I knew we came with 3 suitcases. Why was it that it looked like we needed 5 suitcases now? I mean, we only bought 1 extra bottle of olive oil to take on the road with us. How can you not buy olive oil in Italy? In this Italian cookbook, it's barely the size of my Kindle. And my wife assured me the dress that she bought in downtown Florence didn't weigh that much. So why was it that we couldn't get the suitcases to close? This, unfortunately, is the curse of being a human being. Accumulation is our default. And if you want proof beyond our Florence suitcase experience, look no further than America's self-storage industry. The self-storage industry in America is now a $60 billion business. Nearly 17 million households are currently paying monthly rent on top of their actual rent or mortgage just to store more things, and the number is growing every year. It has gotten so bad that some cities have started banning new storage facilities outright, placing them on restricted lists alongside prisons and slaughterhouses. Well, the beauty of forced constraints and the pursuit of being a minimalist is that you're forced to audit yourself continuously. And that process gives you a chance to reset so accumulation doesn't constantly become your default. Alright, before we keep going, let me take a moment to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart. We're halfway through the year, and this is a time when a lot of us do a quick financial audit. Check in on our savings rate, look at our investment accounts, maybe revisit the budget. But there's one item I find often missing in many families' mid-year checklist, and that is life insurance. And I say that from experience. My wife and I got term life insurance as soon as our kids were born, and honestly, it's one of the best financial decisions we ever made. Which is why I'm excited to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Fabric by Gerber Life. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done today. Made for busy parents like you. All online, on your schedule, right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, often with no health exam required. No awkward agent calls, no scheduling around your week, no stack of forms that make your tax return look like light reading. And on cost, Fabric has flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget. Like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Less than $1 a day? Most of us are spending more than that on things we don't even notice. And if you're young and healthy, now is genuinely the best time to do this. Because once you lock in your rate, it stays the same for the life of your policy. Plus, they have nearly 2,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot with a rating of excellent. These are real families who made this decision for the people who matter most. Look, you've already put in the hard work this year. You're tracking your money, watching your numbers, building towards something. Don't let one missing item on the checklist leave your family exposed. Make this the mid-year item you actually check off. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/tay. Meetfabric.com/tay. And use my link so they know I sent you. meetfabric.com/tay. Alright, with that said, let's get back to the video. The third lesson that we learned while becoming an accidental minimalist. Buy once, buy right. So if you have limited space and you can only carry a few items, how do you ensure every single one of them earns its place? Simple. You focus on quality. The highest quality, especially for items you know you'll use regularly. One of my favorite examples of this is my super special Japanese nail clipper. As you might guess, that I got from Japan. Back at home, I probably had 4 or 5 nail clippers stored in various places around the house. I'm not sure why I had so many, but it likely had to do with the fact that one would wear out and I'll go out and buy a new one, hoping this one will be better. Whatever the case, what ended up happening was I accumulated multiple of the same item, the same nail clipper, all taking up precious cabinet space in my house. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Multiple nail clippers? Who cares? They're tiny. You can have 100 of them and you still have plenty of space in your medicine cabinet. But you have to understand, when you have multiple of the same item, multiple low quality of the same item, it wastes more than just physical space. It wastes your time, your money, and a little piece of your mental energy every time you reach for one and realize it doesn't work as well as you hope. Well, when I finally found the samurai nail clipper in Japan, it became one of those satisfying moments because I became aware that I had been tolerating mediocrity for too long without even realizing it. It was the perfect tool for the job and of the highest quality. And the best part? Because I likely won't need to replace it for years, it would save my precious physical as well as mental space for years to come. The fourth lesson that we learned while becoming an accidental minimalist. Experience trumps things by a far margin. The best things in life aren't things. Now, I know how that sounds. The best things in life aren't things. We probably all seen it on bumper stickers, coffee mugs, motivational posters. And it's probably the most repeated travel cliche in existence. But here's the thing about cliches. Most of them become cliches because they're true. And I can say this with confidence after having experienced it so much with my family firsthand. Now, you might hear me telling you that we've been on the road for the past 2 years and think, you guys must love adventure. You love living on the edge. And I want to tell you, as someone who makes videos about index funds and Roth conversions, we're about as far from adventure and excitement as you can possibly get. Much of our decision to travel full-time mostly came from naivety and watching too many travel vloggers. Regardless, what we experienced firsthand over those 2 years lined up almost perfectly with what the research on happiness has been saying for decades. That experiences makes us happier than things. There is a reason why cliche statements like the best things in life aren't things keep getting repeated across generations. My kids, for example, like most other elementary age kids, love things. They like their toys, their video games, and their plush dolls. And when we were constantly transitioning from place to place, they did complain about how much they miss some of their toys back home. But this was what I found interesting when we visited our home in the States after a year on the road. I saw them looking at their old things like it was their first time seeing them. What happened was after a while on the road, they had completely forgotten about all the things they had at home. Just like how my wife and I stopped thinking about our full closets and packed garage the moment the experiences started piling up. And these shared experiences are what we talk about the most these days, not the things. Standing inside a still functioning castle in Scotland, trying to comprehend what a duke actually does, and more importantly, how do you become one? Touching the Mediterranean Sea on the coast of Nice, France, amazed at how the beach was made up entirely of smooth flat stones instead of sand. So different from the beaches in California. Showing my kids in South Korea the neighborhood I grew up in when I was young, pointing at things that had changed and things that hadn't. Amazed by the rapid development this country went through in the past several decades. We do not remember days, we remember moments. The fifth lesson that we learned while becoming an accidental minimalist. Things can be replaced. One of our favorite places that we visit in Asia is Bali, Indonesia. The food, the culture, the beach. It is such a lovely island. But one downside of a tropical island like Bali is the tropical weather. During its wet season, the sky opens up with the kind of rain that makes you realize you really don't know what a real jungle is. The first time you experience it, you realize the movies haven't done justice to reflect what a real jungle actually looks and feels like. It is terrifying. Well, coincidentally, we happened to be in Bali during one of these heavy rain seasons, and unfortunately, due to a combination of multiple factors, the house that we were renting flooded. My wife, who has much better sixth sense than me, woke me up in the middle of the night during a heavy rainstorm and told me something didn't feel right. And me, of course, being a supportive and attentive husband, just rolled right back to sleep. Well, what we realized soon after was that part of the first floor of our home had flooded because so much rain had come in throughout the night. Welcome to the jungle. But this was what was interesting after we realized what was going on. Because we really didn't have many things. At this point, we had gotten really good at pruning our things to the essentials. We were able to grab all of our most important things within 20 minutes, and we were able to get to safety with the help of the local rescue crew. And I remember thinking as we were moving, if the items left behind get ruined, or we never got a chance to come back to grab them, it really wasn't a big deal. We were safe, and that was all that mattered. Because things, any things can be replaced, but they're never more important than a human life, and further, they don't define who we are. The main lesson for us from that night was this. Things, all things can be replaced. I know it is easy to place enormous value on things, especially in things that cost a lot of money or things that are rare. But we have to recognize that no physical things on earth are worth more than our health, our family, and our shared experiences. Everything else can be replaced. He who knows he has enough is rich. Thank you guys for watching the theme of things. If you like to learn about things you don't want to waste your hard-earned money on, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.